Joining me now to discuss what may have happened to those on board is Florida International University professor and retired Navy physician, Dr. Elaine Marty. Dr. Marty, I appreciate you being with us. Sorry it's, again, under these circumstances. The Coast Guard officials say the submersible suffered a catastrophic implosion. Can you just talk about what that actually means? Because obviously, you know, in the last couple of days when people thought maybe they were running out of oxygen, the idea of what that would mean for those on board, but an implosion is very, very quick.
Yeah, that's the one good thing about this horrific tragedy, and is that when you get an implosion like that, it happens in a fraction of a millisecond. I mean, it's incredibly quick, and it takes more than that. It takes about 0.25 more than that for the human brain to even realize it's happening. So these people the entire thing would have collapsed before the individuals inside would even realize that there was a problem. They may have heard a little something ahead of time. They may have gotten a little bit of extra nitrogen in their brain, but they probably didn't know anything, and then the thing exploded. So.
That's extraordinary. It happens that quick. I heard you say, and I forgot the figure, about how fast something implodes, the miles per hour that it implodes.
That's right, about 1,500 miles per hour. That's the rate, and that's just incredible. And when you're talking about something that's as small as that, yeah.
So I mean, literally, that's it caves in at 1,500 miles per hour.
Yes.
So that's why you're saying it's so fast that the human brain can't even respond that quickly. So feeling of fear or pain, I mean, it would have been instantaneous.
Would not happen. These people, they died, and that's horrible, but they died in a way that they didn't even realize that they were about to die. And so ultimately, among the many ways in which we can pass, that's painless.
There was a question to the Navy, to the Coast Guard Rear Admiral today about the recovery of bodies. I don't want to get into too many details, but there would not be bodies. There would not be bones even. Is that correct?
That's correct. There would be virtually nothing. These people's bodies were completely collapsed in just little minute fragments. There's very unlikely to find anything there of human tissue. I mean, if you were to search for DNA, you might possibly find it, but we're talking about an ocean, and we're talking about a large debris field. So you're not going to find much in the way of human remains.
Well, Dr. Elaine Marty, I appreciate you being with us. I'm glad to know it was quick. I mean, it's awful no matter what, but I appreciate the detail. Thank you.
Out front now, Dr. Ken Lede. He's a specialist in treating patients in extreme conditions and deep-sea divers. He's also a hyperbaric medicine expert at Memorial University in St. John's, Newfoundland. And Dr. Lede, obviously in Newfoundland, you may have had a very different story to be talking about here tonight. We all had hoped it would be that way. But I want to start here with the implosion, catastrophic implosion. That's what we're hearing about, right? Everyone's been thinking for days, right, where these people, suffering in fear, right? Trying to preserve the oxygen, trying to survive for rescue. But now they're saying this catastrophic implosion likely led to the deaths of the 5 people on board. What do you think happened?
Well, honestly, once the implosion occurred, there would have been a very, very rapid increase in pressure that these individuals were exposed to. That would have had 2 main effects. The pressure of the nitrogen actually has a very powerful narcotic, like an anesthetic. Anyone who's a diver knows that the deeper you go, the more narcotic and impaired you get just from the nitrogen in the air. So there would have been a very rapid increase in the nitrogen pressure in the people's brain, and it would have been like a massive anesthetic overdose, to be honest. I mean, it would have been instant loss of consciousness for that reason. And the second thing that would have happened is that all the body cavities and spaces that contained air, they would have been crushed instantaneously from that massive pressure. I mean, at that depth, we're talking about in excess of 360 atmospheres. So all the air spaces would have basically been crushed flat very, very quickly. So one of the consequences of that is that the chest cavity itself would have been compressed instantaneously with that pressure. That would have actually stopped any return of blood to the heart and would have caused a cardiac arrest immediately. So because of that, this was not a prolonged experience, probably did not even have any opportunity even to be aware of drowning or any sense whatsoever. It would have been extremely quick. I mean,
okay.
and had if they'd been able to take a breath. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No. I think everyone watching, I mean, obviously what you're describing sounds horrific, but thank God, right? If they didn't know, right? It just happened so fast. Just to understand here, right? You know, earlier we were talking about there's a pinprick, right? It could have started, who knows exactly how it did, but it could have started with something like a pinprick, and then it would have obviously almost instantaneously become systemic, right? So would there have been any warning is what I'm asking you? Do you think there's any way that they would have known or foreseen it coming, you know, had an awareness that death was coming, or no?
Well, I mean, you have to wonder if there was some kind of structural failure going on, whether they might have heard some creaking or cracking. I think that is possible. But once the structure was breached, that massive pressure, you know, up to 360 atmospheres, the inrush of water would have been extremely fast. And at that pressure, the gas would be so dense that they would be unable to breathe it in. But in any case, the narcotic effect of the nitrogen would have instantaneously made them unconscious, and their chest would have been crushed straight away, and they would have had a cardiac arrest without question.
And would not have felt that. All right. Well, thank you so much, Doctor. I appreciate that, and you know, sobering and sorrowful, but I think right, we can all say, thank goodness that they wouldn't have known. Thank you. And next, much more on the search for answers in the implosion of the Titan. Plus, Ukraine now claiming Russia is planning to launch a terrorist attack at the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. Nuclear power plant. And another Republican candidate jumping in the race to beat Donald Trump. So is this all just handing the nomination to Trump instead?